Hey, today is October 14th, 2023, and bringing you a daily update again from Israel. I'm actually in Eilat. Can't really tell. You just probably see a reflection of my room. That's too bad. Hold on. That help? Doesn't look great. Anyway, Eilat is the southernmost city in Israel, and it's on the Red Sea. It borders Egypt and Jordan. And some say it's the safest place to be in Israel right now. And I did not come here because it's the safest place in Israel. I came here. I'm fortunate to have been able to join with an NGO, CBN Israel, that is actually here to they evacuated several residents from the areas near the Gaza Strip to hotels here, so they have a place to stay because they don't have. Well, some of them do have homes, but many don't. And in any case, the army has ordered them to evacuate the area. That was the area that was the hardest hit by both rockets and infiltrations. So I'm here to actually speak with a lot of the victims and get their stories. And I shared some of that on Facebook the other day, Facebook yesterday on Facebook Live, and I'll review some of that today. But first, I'm going to talk about where we are today with the news. I mean, it looks like I've got the news on in the background as well. I haven't really been attached to it in the last couple of days because I've been out getting these stories, these interviews. But there is a continued rocket fire. If you could imagine that up till now, and I'm not getting numbers. I have no idea what the number is of rockets, but to go back to 2021, there was an 11-day conflagration, let's say. It wasn't an officially declared war between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And there were 4,500 rockets that Gaza, that Hamas launched at Israel during that time. So here, the first day, today is exactly 1 week. It began Saturday morning, 7 days ago. And there's a range of 2,500 to 5,000 in that first day alone. Now, since then, there are dozens or more rockets a day, usually concentrated on the south, the Gaza periphery, which are all the towns that have been evacuated to here. Also up the coast, Ashkelon, Ashdod, and then there's usually one or two large barrages at the center, which is Tel Aviv area. And then we've had every single day a little, I don't want to minimize it, but a cat and mouse game on the northern border of whether or not it's going to happen. Is it Hezbollah that shoots a rocket, or is it Hamas, or is it a false alarm? We've had several of those. Is it an infiltration? And we've had a few of those as well, plus a few attempts. So that has not escalated yet in the north. And meanwhile, there's 360,000 Israeli reserve troops that have been called up, many of them concentrated on the northern border, the northern border of Gaza, the southern border of Israel, ready to go into Gaza. And actually tonight there was an announcement by the IDF that that the expansion of their military action is about to begin, and many assume that means a ground invasion. So in the meantime, rockets are still being fired. We're looking at one that landed right here in Ashkelon, and some that have made direct hits. But I'm having trouble keeping up as to how many there are. Also alarms in the north, in the Galilee. So we'll be following that and see if it was a false alarm again, or if it was real. So as they're ready to go for a ground invasion, in the last 24 hours or more, Israel has sent messages to the people of Gaza to move south. 1 million people told to evacuate to the south as much as possible. And the organizations like the EU, the UN, people are saying like it's impossible to ask a population to move in especially in such a short amount of time, and especially considering the humanitarian challenges that they would face by having to leave their homes, by having to travel without food or water. Then the Israeli army put out pictures, satellite pictures of blockades that Hamas put up to prevent the civilians from leaving. Now, Hamas has long been accused of using civilians as human shields. So that is the fear that right now, again, the people of Gaza, the innocent people of Gaza, are being used as human shields. So now I can imagine as an outsider what this all must look like to you, or how, you to understand a conflict that's so far from where you live and without knowing the culture, the language, the people. I mean, I see this happening, playing out in other parts of the world, and I know that I don't know and understand what's happening and the complexities on the ground. So I understand, and I think one of the things that I do want to express is that it's very complicated here because it's a very mixed society, and because you have Israeli Jews and you have Arabs, be they Christian or Muslim, all living almost side by side in many places, but working together, shopping together, sometimes going to school together. It makes for very complicated and tense times. Also, we have had quite a few victims, Arab victims, Muslims. I don't know if there are any Christians, but Arab Israeli Muslims and Palestinians who have been killed by rocket fire, or have been abducted, or were killed in the initial attack by Hamas after they infiltrated into Israel. So that there was one from a Jerusalem neighborhood who he just died of his wounds today after a rocket landed there. I believe it was on Monday, earlier, just a couple of days ago. I think 19 years old. I'd have to check again. I'm sorry, I don't have that right here. But so it makes for a very complicated situation. I also see, some left-wingers left-wing Israelis who were very much for peace. Some of them have been killed. Some of them have been kidnapped. And I see also some of the left-wingers who are always saying like they want to live side by side, and now getting very angry and just horrified by what happened to Israel, that they say, I don't care what Israel does to Gaza, let them bomb it. And then I also see others like on Twitter doubling down and saying the retaliation that Israel is taking is disproportionate and it's absolutely wrong. And these are Israelis that are saying this. So you can see like how this a conflict like this divides further, even, a society that's already divided. A society that lives together side by side, but is still living in its own boxes and its own divisions and its own opinions. But that's also an interesting aspect, because a lot of people say that the fact that there was so much division in Israeli society, most of it actually based recently in the past few months on the debate over proposed judicial reforms that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government wants to bring. The response to that has been there have been protests by the opposition, and protests for weeks on end, for months on end, sometimes drawing 200,000 plus people weekly to go out and to stop this legislation. So society was extremely divided already, which many people say is what gave Hamas the ability to attack now. But aside from that, there was also obviously a massive security breach, a military breach, maybe intelligence breach we're still figuring, well, we're still following and seeing, like, getting all the facts on that. Now, in the meantime, we're still getting the facts on exactly what transpired. And so I'll just go to my day. My last 2 days has been basically to be entrenched in what these people went through, and story after story, some of them sounding familiar, but everybody having gone through it in their own ways. They just, one person said, when he described what he saw, he said it was a river of bodies. When he went to see where his friend was, who he went to go find his friends, and he said, he just walked through, and it's like a river of bodies. The people who were there. So what happened was more than 1,000. By the way, what happened in the north, it was probably a false alarm or something. They said there were nothing fell, but no rockets landed. Okay, so more than 1,000 Hamas terrorists broke through a very highly secure fence that has sensors and cameras everywhere. They used bulldozers, I don't know what else, in other places, made a few holes in the fence. More than 1,000 of them, around 1,500, fanned out to different communities. There's several communities around the border, and most of them are farming, agricultural communities. There's also foreign workers that live there. And they went and they breached these their kibbutzes, or a moshav is another type of community. They went in from different sides. They had plans. We're getting information now that they actually had maps. They had instructions, go in here, look for this, look for that. They had each town, they had units assigned to the different towns. They knew how to get there. They drove through with vehicles, pickup trucks. One guy said he saw 15 pickup trucks go by. He was out walking his dog in between sirens. There was a rocket, and he's like, okay, the rocket's over. Now I'm going to go walk my dog. He's out there, sees 15 trucks go by, and they shot at him. And he was like, but he ran back to his house, alerted security, and within minutes, they had breached the border. From their stories, I have to tell you, from the stories I heard, and I was talking to people who are alive, obviously they survived, I was thinking, this should have been a lot worse, actually. Like, that's how bad the breach was. But they saw the terrorists wearing full military gear. They had vests, they had guns, pistols, RPGs. They were driving vehicles, some of them got stuff they stole from the military installations. They said then they would come and go house to house. They actually also had a plan, like, of going through neighborhoods, and how they figured this out or pieced this together was, like, a lot of these communities are very tightly knit, and they're connected through WhatsApp groups. If you don't have WhatsApp, it's an app on your phone that, you can make groups. And so they would, activate their communication system. Okay, who's here? Who's accounted for? What's happening? And so people would say, like, okay, they're in my neighborhood. I hear them. Oh, they're going house to house. Oh, they're in my house. I hear them in my house. So the people were able to keep track of where they were and where they were going. Somebody very quickly realized and alerted all of the kibbutz members, don't forget, your shelter door, the bomb shelter that's in your house is only meant to protect you from bombs and shrapnel, but it doesn't lock. So it's not going to protect you from an intruder. So they had to figure out how to keep theirs closed. Everybody did it in their own way. Some people put furniture, other people just held the door closed. Some people tied it to a bed to prevent people from opening it. So that's what was going on from house to house. Then in addition to that, they were setting fire. Like, they would set fire to a house to smoke the people out who were in their shelter, so they would get out of their shelter. But then from the house, catch fire on a tree, and then from a tree it would spread to the next house. So in between getting shot at, some of these people actually went outside to try to douse fires with like garden hoses. Um, so this was story after I heard the same story from different people that this is what was going on. There was one family next, one family told me that next door there were two adult children, like 18 and 20 years old, and their parents are overseas right now. And one of them has special needs. I think he has autism, and they were alone. So at some point when there was a break in the lull in the shooting, they ran over there. Ah, no, their house was on fire, and that's they went and got them out. But the kids were so scared, they didn't want to open. They didn't know who was knocking at their door. So until they said, no, it's so and so. No, we know your parents, and they gave the parents name and everything and assured them. Then they finally came out and they got them into their shelter. I told this story yesterday about the woman who was who was texting her daughter, and when the mother, recently divorced, wasn't with them and was in another community, and the daughter said, "Dad's been murdered, help." And she ended up being on the phone with her the whole time, and they had spared the children and wrote on the wall, the Al-Qassam Brigades doesn't kill children. So stories like this. Now today, I met a woman whose husband is missing. She didn't talk. She wasn't one of the ones who did the interview, but her husband's missing, and she has twin babies. And then we interviewed another young man who was talking about his friend, and I didn't know how the story was going to end. She was at the music festival. If you didn't hear about this, there was a slaughter field right outside these communities. There was in an open field, there was a music festival, and they went through the night, and at like around 7 a.m, the Hamas guys drove in and paraglided in, landed in the field, and started just shooting at all these people. I think there were maybe 1,000 young people there, and his friend was there. And he said that he was getting texts from her that morning, like, they're shooting, there's something going on, we're getting shot at, whatever, I'm running. And then the next thing is I've been shot. And then he didn't hear from her again for hours. And then nothing. He had nothing to do. He couldn't get out. He said it was the feeling of being helpless was just the worst thing in the world for him. So he found out later somebody had gone, one of their mutual friends who was part of trying to rescue people, went and saw her lying there in a pile of people. They were all dead except for her, but she was unconscious, and she had been shot in both of her legs and in the head. And right now she's on life support. So he was crying as he told us this. Everybody knows everybody, especially down there. It's a very tight-knit area, and everybody knows somebody, and they're overwhelmed with the loss and the grief. Somebody else brought up a good point. It's all farming communities down there, and every day that they're not harvesting the crops, or the tomatoes are sitting there in storage and not being sold, they're losing money. Of course, wherever they were going to export them to, even if it was around the country, we're going to have probably a shortage of food or fruits and vegetables. There's also cows, they need to be milked, and they're just down there as well. So these are just, some of the tragedies and some of the, the little things maybe we don't think about, because, we are concerned, obviously, with the most important thing is human life, but there's also a lot of logistical issues. People are still going back and forth from their communities to places like here where they've been evacuated. There's 10,000 evacuees here in Eilat, actually. So huge number, and I don't know what the hotel capacity is around here, but I think it's maxing out here. So that's more or less the update for today. We're as always glued to the news to see what's going to happen, where, if anything else is going to open up. But thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry I have not checked questions, comments, or anything in the last few days. I haven't checked my email either, and I really want to. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them, and I'll try to get to them. I always have people tell me, you didn't answer this question, so I'm like, oh, thanks for letting me know. I will try. But thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned, because I will, continue to update throughout this. And we're, like I said, we're in for the long haul. So, things may seem quieter than they did this time last week, but I think might be the calm before the storm.